Yo, I feel like it's been a while. For anyone wondering what the reason of his disappearance was, pretty much my house flooded. I had some pretty bad IRL stuff I had to take care of. But during that whole IRL stuff, I did actually have something that kept me tied to the game. And that was actually my Metafy. It's something that's kind of curious that it actually started popping off while that was going on, considering I never ever promoted it anywhere. So it actually quite made me happy. So in today's video, what I wanted to cover is all those things that I saw from my different Metafy students, the different common things I tied together into a video. Since they managed to tie me into the game, I'm gonna share those tips that I gave those Metafy students. Now, I had all sorts of Metafy students. Some of them were just starting out into the ranked journey all the way from iron. Some others were already around like gold to plat, and they all made it to different levels. Some of them even made it to mithril. And with that in mind, I wanted to start from the very bottom all the way to the top. So this tips video is going to cover from beginner level all the way to an intermediate or advanced level. So you can feel free to skip over some of the tips you might already know if it doesn't match your skill level, but I believe there's something for everyone in this video. Starting us off with the easiest tip of all, this is for my beginners guys, maining a character. What I mean maining a character is pretty much we're trying to reduce the amount of information we're taking in at once. Total Return is a game that's pretty hard because of the amount of information overload they're throwing at us. And a lot of that information comes with characters. Now, the one variable that we can control in a game is our own character and our own decisions within that game. So trying to learn many different characters at once might not be our best idea. We might want to just center our one character or two at max. I would say if you're just picking up the game, main one character, and then maybe as you start climbing ranks, maybe around gold level or something, where you start to see that sometimes you might be losing, not necessarily because of your character but your comp. If you start to see like maybe you main a DPS range, and sometimes you seems like your team lacks a tank, you could pick up a tank, start learning one. For a good rule of thumb, learning about two characters, one frontline, one backline, is usually enough for most players. So I would say I would try to do that if you're climbing, and at the very beginning, just main one. Second, this tip was honestly kind of crazy that it happened universally. I think all of my students had issues when it came to deciding between an alpha and a battle zone. Since the main course that I offer on Metafy has to do with climbing specifically, I always have to say we always want to go to a battle zone. Pretty much the way battle zones work is that they will give you a flat amount of per kill that you get there, but they do actually grant you RP. Additionally, battle zones were changed this season to let you actually call in items inside of them with the demerit that you can no longer form the animals in them, but that's totally okay. So not only they let you get free transitions if there is a kiosk in them, but also you're getting free RP there that you wouldn't have otherwise. And on top of that, it's completely risk-free since you can't die in them. For that reason, I think Battlezones are actually an incredible way to climb. I would really encourage you to try to do those. There is definitely times where alpha might be the best option, but I do think we should always try to prioritize battle zones when possible. Next thing, it's in relation, I guess, to alpha and battle zones. A little bit more of like intermediate, but this is more of like a change of focus rather than a tip by itself, and that is to focus on your macro more than anything. For those that don't know what that means, I did have actually students who never played a MOBA before, and this was actually their first MOBA and they didn't understand what that meant, but pretty much it just means your decision making. Total Return is a battle royale game as well as a MOBA game, but much more battle royale than anything. So the decision making when it comes to the battle royale aspects, where to stand, where to not get third party, and in general, even in fights, your decision making is going to affect most of your gameplay. I would say a rough estimate, if you wanted to take my opinion as a more advanced player, about 95% of this game, it's honestly just macro. Your decisions affect almost everything, and then 5%, it's going to be your micro adjustments of like whether or not you land skills. A lot of players, whenever I'm coaching them, they're worried that they're missing a lot of skills, even if this is like their first MOBA, and they grant the fact that they lost a fight to them missing that skill. And while that might be true sometimes, for the most part, that 5%, it's something that you're going to get over time by just playing the game more. You're going to start getting better at landing your skills. Whereas your decisions is something you can start on right away. You can always think back of like, how did I die? Why did I die here? What happened? And like try to have better decision making for the next game. Or you might just not be well informed, and you just need to know more about like hunt rotations, XP, taking fights, you know, all that stuff. It's stuff that some of it might be knowledge based, but in general, it all helps you make better decisions and be better player. For the most part, I would say that 5% is probably the rough estimate I would give it. Some people might disagree. Some people say it's more. Some people might say it's less. I also think it depends on your character. If you're playing a character that really relies on landing one specific skill shot and then get a burst out of it, it could be a higher percentage that is based on it. But then again, we have pro players who literally miss their most important, like, ultimate skill shot.
They are down a lot of cooldowns, but they are smartly going to walk away. Kusu misses the bola. The timer's super low.
And still win tournaments. So, like, don't worry that much about your micro. You'll get it over time. Let's try to focus on our decision making. With that being said, one of the biggest things decision making wise, the number one thing that gets people killed and makes people not be able to climb, that is tip number 4, learning to disengage. Disengaging is a very weird concept in this game. A lot of people understand the revive system of, like, if your team doesn't fully wipe before day 3, they will respawn, so one person should stay alive, and then once the fight goes wrong, they start to disengage. Until then, people kind of get it. In the lower elos, I would say even then they don't get it and they still just wipe when revives are still for free. But I would say even past that, at day 3 and beyond, people should always try to survive. If a fight is going wrong, you should always try to disengage. Even before a fight starts, you should try to disengage if the conditions don't look well. Conditions could be terrain. It could be that the enemy has a lead on you, whether it's transitions or mastery. It could be just the fact that your cooldowns are down, if your allies don't have their ultimates or they don't have their flash, you know. All those things could be very well reasons to disengage, and a lot of the times I see so many people that died because they had one ultimate on cooldown and they didn't tell their team that they wanted to disengage, or they simply completely ignored it and decided to still go in. And I get it. I do the same sometimes. I go into a fight and just play it out, whatever happens happens, just because it's fun, brain off, whatever. But if we're really trying to climb, if we're really trying to get the best, learning to disengage and learning not to take otherwise fights that we'll lose, or when the fight is going wrong, to disengage so you can live another day and then revive your teammates, is going to be very important in order to help us climb. Finally, the last one, and this one is the one when it comes to the most experience, is probably the one, it's honestly one that I still see in my games pretty much every night that I queue, and that is understanding your role in your team. This is very knowledge based because it requires you to know a lot about the other characters and your own character and in the game itself. So what happens here when I say understanding your role, this comes to team composition, and then in game, what should your optimal fight look like? Are you the one that's engaging? Are you the one that's doing damage? Are you the one that has to CC? Do you have to protect your team? Do you have to go bother the enemy backline? Do you have to make sure this particular cooldown that they need, like the enemy is gonna use, gets covered by one of your abilities in your kit? All those things is essentially understanding your role and what you need to do in that fight before it happens. And when you're selecting your character, looking at the things the team lacks that you're providing. That could be engage, that could be tankiness, that could be frontline, that could be peeling, CC. There's like so many things. Pretty much the pros and cons videos that I've released in the past, that's kind of what it covers when it comes to selecting based on your comp. One big important one that is honestly probably the one I see the most, mainly because of my character, is damage. Whenever people are selecting around me, I main Tia, so I play a backline mage DPS, but the issue that a lot of people don't see is that when I lock that in and they see that and they're like, oh, we can play around this guy, and then they lock a tank and a support, it's like, yes, that comp on a normal range mage DPS would work. The problem with Tia is that her effective range to actually deal damage is that of pretty much a melee character almost. If you would compare another mage to her that has a similar range, it would be Tazia. That's where Tia can actually deal damage. So if you want that comp to work, you need some very specific supports or tanks to make it work, or you just need ideally a different character. And so that's something that happens quite a bit because not that many people know Tia, and I usually type to them, tell them, hey, I think we need a bit more damage, can someone swap? Sometimes they'll do it, sometimes they won't. It's okay, but it's something that is more with knowledge. Once again, this is a more advanced tip. You won't get it at the first time. The thing, if you're a beginner player and you're watching this, I would highly encourage you to at least understand your own character and what you provide. whether it's engage, damage, peel, or any of those things. Try to get what you're providing to your team so that you know what you should be doing in a fight. With that being said, I think that was it for me. I'm going to be trying to upload once again. I'm going to try to keep my old schedule of once a week. In terms of streaming, currently my internet setup, it's still kind of funky, so I don't believe I can stream, but I'm gonna try to get streams going, so even if it's just for events, while we get the YouTube going. I'm also gonna do a bit of a rebranding on my Discord, so I'm gonna be moving some channels here and there. You'll probably see that in the near future, but thank you all. I'm so sorry for the sudden hiatus. I hope I can be back this time, and I hope I can provide you guys with some great information in future videos. That was it. Bye bye.